Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to ATACS, adults who talk about cool stuff. This is mostly a video game podcast, episode 1, November 6th, 2016, dawn of the second day. 48 hours remain until our great national nightmare is over/begins. PSA, Election Day, is this upcoming Tuesday, November the 8th. Go out and take part in the greatest democracy that the world's ever seen. Go vote for whoever you want to vote for. Joining us here on our video game-centric podcast is Mr. Ryan, billed from New York City. Hello, Ryan.
Hello.
How are you today?
I'm great. I'm feeling the time change.
Yeah, I'm got a lot more sleep this morning, which was wonderful. We've also got Flex from the wonderful city of Raleigh, North Carolina.
I have already voted. I used my extra hour today to vote.
That is impressive, sir. You are a time traveler. So did you do early voting?
Yeah, I actually did it early last week on Monday. I just it was in the middle of the work afternoon. I was like, this place is only like a 5-minute drive from work. I'm just gonna go ride by there and see what the line's like, and it was really short. And I was like, all right, I'm just gonna do it.
Nice.
It took all of a half an hour.
Yeah, it was quite a lot longer here where I am. But next up we have Mr. Nate from the great metropolis of Wendell, North Carolina.
That's right, booming metropolis, which is currently covered in Trump signs.
Oh,
Wendell.
Wendell, and so it's Wendell, not Wendale, right?
Wendell, not Wendell,
okay.
Not Wendale, Wendell.
Okay, all right. So are people there very particular about the pronunciation of their city?
I don't know. When we first moved out here, I got corrected pretty quickly, so I guess so.
I have been corrected by people in Raleigh. I'll say, yeah, my brother just bought a house in Wendell, and they're like, it's Wendell.
Yeah, get it right.
And as we can see, Southern charm is still very much alive. And I, of course, am your host. I'm Paul from Atlanta, Georgia, originally also from North Carolina. We all were originally from North Carolina, but two of us decided to flee, one to the north, one to the south, and the other two are still stuck there.
I fled and came back.
You went to Washington, D.C., which is arguably one step down on everyone's scale. So I understand your great return. So, but we're here to talk about video games, which is exactly what we're going to do. So I'm going to open up the floor to about anyone and ask what have you been playing in the last few days, the last week or so that's just really tickled your fancy?
Titanfall 2.
Titanfall 2.
I think that's an
I have
easy one,
Titanfall 2 up on my screen right now.
I think most of us are in the Titanfall 2 boat/bandwagon.
So I actually have not gotten onto the Titanfall 2 bandwagon because I have some really great friends that betrayed me by buying it on the PlayStation and not the superior console, the PC. Tell me about Titanfall 2. How does it compare to the first game? Better, worse, different?
Similar in my view. So this is Ryan speaking. I would say it's a little more polished than the original game. The campaign is great. Just finished the campaign yesterday, and I do really like that, which I think you'll see that reflected in a lot of the reviews. It's just fun, doesn't take itself too seriously. I personally like the way that it manages to incorporate a lot of the gameplay mechanics, which Titanfall actually does have a lot of varied gameplay mechanics for a shooter, right? You've got the wall running, you've got the jumping, you've got, in and out of the Titan, you've got, fighting with grunts, fighting with Titans, and the game is really clever about kind of making story pieces that make decent sense and kind of working those different parts of the gameplay in a way that fits pretty well and is actually fun. They'll put wall running segments in. It's like, okay, you need to kind of platform from here to there, and maybe shoot some drones in the air. And then when you get to the other side, you do something, and, now you meet back up with your Titan and start fighting Titans. And it all kind of clicks together in a pretty effective way that doesn't, it's not so gamey that it kind of sucks you out of the experience and you're like, well, they really wanted me to exercise all these mechanics. So that that's on the single player front. On the multiplayer front, it does feel a lot like the original. With maybe a little bit more polish, some tweaks and tuning. Biggest difference for me is that in the first game, we had a pretty small play group. It was 3 or 4 of us on the PC, playing kind of casually, and now we have a bit of a bigger play group, which is always a boost for a multiplayer shooter. But yeah, it's been a great time for the week or so I've been playing it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a fun one. I also finished the campaign early this morning. That's actually what I used my bonus hour on. And yeah, I pretty much agree with what Ryan said about the campaign. That, like, I wouldn't say it's like going to blow your mind if you've ever played like a Call of Duty style campaign, but I think just Titanfall's inherent mechanics make that more fun, and I think they have fun with the story. They have animated up giant robot style, and they just have fun with it. And yeah, the multiplayer it has more options than the last game did. Like it feels basically the same, but they just have more options to mess with, like more Titans, more guns, more loadout options, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I actually saw a GIF where the player character ran up to a robot that can only be described as Chappie, and took an arc gun from the robot, and then the robot got a very sad face in his chest. And is that kind of humor sort of all the way through the campaign?
You're giving thumbs up back and forth to your robot.
Okay, that sounds interesting. Sounds interesting.
That actually was a pretty funny. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
One of the Marvins.
Yeah, it was funny.
Nate, what are your thoughts on Titanfall 2 so far?
Yeah, pretty much the same. I think both of them have played more than I have. I've been playing some of the campaign this afternoon, and it's definitely a lot of fun. Mixes it up a lot more than a typical shooter campaign tends to do, and just that game just feels really good. I'm looking forward to getting more into the multiplayer. I've only played one session of multiplayer, but it looks like there's a lot of good customization stuff there, so I'm looking forward to it and enjoying it so far.
I still miss my smart pistol though.
Yes, the missing of the removal of the smart pistol is definitely a negative in my book.
So, about how long was the campaign? How many hours from start to finish?
5 or 6 maybe.
Okay, so it's a relatively short single-player campaign. Yeah. Does it feel like it has a lot on legs as far as multiplayer? Like, do you see it as like a 40-hour multiplayer game before you start to get out of it, or more or less? What do you think?
No idea. I mean,
a little early to tell.
Yeah, it's a little early to tell on that. I mean, it definitely seems like it has more legs than Titanfall 1 did. And of course, you can prestige and do all that stuff too. So like, I mean, I would probably compare it to your average Call of Duty multiplayer in terms of legs, and then it depends on how much like the extra stuff it has over Call of Duty, like the Titans and the wall running and all the other mechanics it has going on. Like that to me makes it feel fresher and makes me more inclined to play it more. Obviously, because I haven't played Call of Duty in years. But in terms of just like number of modes and features and like the length of the progression ramp and all of that stuff, like it's comparable to Call of Duty, but then of course it has like the other mechanics that make it stand out a little more.
And they also might keep adding stuff to it, like with the first Titanfall they added that sort of defense mode co-op thing, and this game
Frontier
doesn't
defense,
this game doesn't have that out of the box, right?
Correct.
Like so they may go back and add stuff like that at some point too.
They have also confirmed 100% that all multiplayer maps will be free.
So we know that there's going to be some additional content coming down the road in the form of new maps. Do we know anything about DLC yet, or was it sold with the season pass?
The only paid DLC, as far as I know, that they've said will be cosmetic. So
I don't even think they sold a season pass.
There was some kind of deluxe edition that had a bunch of cosmetic stuff, but I don't know if it was like a season pass style thing or not.
Right.
But they have said for sure there will be new maps and those will be free. They haven't said anything about like a Frontier Defense style mode. I hope that comes back because I really like that mode.
Yeah, I really want to see that in this game with all the extra options. I think that would be really fun.
Yeah.
I mean, horde modes are just a fun, like, comp stomp.
Yeah.
first-person shooter thing to have. And the first Titanfall, I guess the way the game is structured, it was definitely a fun one that they put in there.
Yeah. Speaking of horde mode, if we wanted to segue,
There you go.
Uh-oh.
look at that.
Look at that segue to World of Warcraft Legion, right?
Nope. Does that have a horde mode?
I mean, the horde is in Warcraft, I guess. Is that the link you were drawing there, Paul?
I mean, that's pretty much where I saw this going.
Okay.
But obviously, we're going to another place. So, Flex, why don't you take us there?
I was talking about Gears of War 4, which has the actual horde mode.
Oh, so have you been playing some Gears 4?
Mm-hmm. Nate and I played through the co-op campaign and finished it last week? Maybe 2 weeks ago? I don't know.
Yeah, it was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, and then we also played 30 waves of horde mode. And at some point we'll play more of it when Nate has time.
So, I mean, really, the most important question that I've had for Gears 4, I don't know if it's a spoiler or not, but does the Coal Train make a triumphant return somewhere in this game?
Do you want a spoilery answer for that?
I don't know. Are we going to go spoilers on this podcast?
I will just give you a yes or no if you want it, but I'm just confirming that you want it.
Just give me a yes or no. Does he come back? Do we see him?
Yes.
Excellent. Does he have any great dialogue?
I'll defer to Nate on that one.
I guess I'm gonna have to say no because
It's not a solid yes. So
Yeah.
Sounds like it must be no.
Well,
Like-
I mean, that does it for me. I'm not going to buy Gears 4 then.
there's a lot of like callbacks and nostalgia in that game to the original trilogy. I wouldn't say Cole is a centerpiece of all of that, but he does make an appearance.
Okay.
Marcus Phoenix regularly says, "Aw, come on."
Yes.
So
Okay.
that's good enough for me.
All right. Okay.
Gears
So
4
have you?
Oh,
Sorry,
Gears
Ryan, go
4 is set like in the not so distant future, like 20, 30 years
Yeah, I
after
think
the.
it's 25 years after the end of Gears 3. And you play the main character is Marcus's son, so it's been enough time for him to be born and be of fighting age.
Is he also bald? Does he have a do-rag?
No, he has normal hair.
He has normal hair. He must have taken after his mother then. So that's good. That's good.
Who I assume is Anya, but I haven't actually
I feel like they kind
Reconfirm.
of dance around who his mom is
Yeah.
enough that you assume it's a character you would know if they said the name of, and since there is like maybe 2 female characters in Gears of War, that's probably Anya.
Yeah.
Well, I mean-
they don't think they explicitly said it. That's just been my assumption.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's in lore somewhere, right? Just
Yeah,
start Googling it. You'll probably find there's a book somewhere that explains the whole thing.
Probably.
Or a Reddit post speculating.
Yeah.
Oh,
Not
there's
been confirmed.
a Reddit post that speculates about practically everything, but those are not what I consider canon. Okay, so have you played any of the Gears 4 multiplayer other than the Horde mode? Do they still have competitive deathmatch and things like
They
that?
still have competitive, yeah, all the same stuff. I haven't played anything other than campaign and horde. I've played with Nate. I mean,
Okay.
Gears for me has always been a co-op game first. Like I've never played any of the campaign single player. I've never gotten into the competitive multiplayer. Those games have always been about co-op campaign and horde mode for me.
So does this game do anything to subvert the trope of you walk into a area and you see a million waist high, sort of barricades and you know that something's about to go down? Does it do anything to subvert those tropes, or is it just a lot of that sort of on a newer generation console?
It's pretty much a lot of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
There are some set piece moments that are not that. You ride a motorcycle
Sure.
at one point.
Oh boy.
You
no.
get in robots at one point.
Okay.
So like there
Much
are
like Titanfall.
Yeah. Yes. Year of the Titans. Yeah. So I mean, there are set pieces, but yeah, 90% of that game or more is a lot of chest high walls.
Yeah, it's very similar to the sort of formula of the old games. They do have a new enemy faction, so it's not just the Locust guys, Locust-ish guys who are not technically Locusts in this game.
Yeah.
They have a new enemy faction, and They do mix it up a little bit, but yeah, I think overall it sticks pretty closely to that formula.
And you do start off fighting that new faction, which are a bunch of robots. And there's some fun new guns in there, like what was it called, the drop mine or something? I think it's a cool new gun. You basically like shoot out this mine that's in the air, and it like just goes straight, and it has like a little laser pointing down towards the ground, so you can kind of see where it's above on the ground, and then like you press a button again, and the mine will just drop straight down. So it's basically made for getting over cover, so it'll like float in the air above people in cover, and then whenever you pull the trigger, it'll just drop down, so you can let it go behind cover and blow people up.
That sounds incredible.
Yeah, so they have some cool new weapons and stuff like that. And then that new faction of robots, like they basically have their own spread of weapons. So like, they have their own version of a submachine gun and a shotgun and a sniper rifle and all that stuff.
Okay. Any other prevailing thoughts about Gears 4?
Horde mode's still fun.
Yeah, Horde mode's a lot of fun.
All right.
They added like classes and a lot of different progression stuff to that, which makes it seem a little grindy, but it was still fun when we played it.
Yeah, I think the like experience ramp may be a little too slow, but I do like that they have added classes. So like I was playing the engineer who can repair fortifications, and Nate was playing as the scout who collects double power. So power is what enemies drop power, and you use power to build fortifications. So the different classes have different abilities, and there are 5 classes. You can play with 5 people.
Okay.
So like I think that stuff's pretty neat, and you can level up the classes and like equip different class skills. So like the engineer has skills focused on like buying fortifications for cheaper or repairing faster and those kind of things. So like there's a little more. They've put some more customization into it, which I think is neat. The ramp seems super slow because like Nate and I, granted we were playing on the lowest difficulty because we only had 2 people, not 5, and we were level 1. But we played 30 waves of Horde, which took a good 2 hours or so.
Yeah.
And we leveled up once during that time. So, and you have to go to level 10, I think, to unlock all your slots.
Yeah, that seems a little bit slow to me.
Yeah,
but that being
really
said,
slow.
it could just be that the game's not really balanced down to teams of 2 for Horde, and they're more balanced toward teams of 5. But
yeah, like I'm sure if we got a team of 5 and played on a higher difficulty, we'd we'd definitely get more experience. I don't know how much more, but like I do admit that we're on doing it as the slowest way possible.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, like overall, it's another good, fun Gears game. Like they've made some smart but very incremental gameplay additions / improvements. The only other notable thing I'd say about it is that this game released simultaneously also on PC, and it runs very well on PC. So it's kind of neat to see Microsoft's Play Anywhere thing actually working.
Yeah, that's something that I was doing some reading about, and that's definitely put Gears 4 on a theoretical list of mine for games not made in 1997 to play. So just have to get back around to that. But
one last thought: the ending of that game is garbage.
Yes, I was gonna bring that up if you didn't.
Ending of that game is garbage.
Is that like a Gears of War like thing though?
I thought the endings to Gears 1 and 3 were fine. 2 was a little kind of whatever, but
only played 1 and 2, and I don't remember 1 being amazing, and 2 was just I didn't even know what was going on.
Yeah, 1 was fine, 2 was kind of whatever. 3 actually ended very well. I thought like they actually gave it a lot of closure.
Is it as bad as the Halo 2 ending, where they left you a cliffhanger and then 4 years to wait for Halo 3?
It might be worse.
Really?
I personally was offended more by this one than
really.
Which part of it could have been that when I played Halo 2, I expected the ending to be just a terrible cliffhanger, and it was.
The 2.
Yeah, to Halo 2, but like this one, like.
We were playing, and we knew we were kind of like getting towards the end of the game, and like stuff was happening, and then this cutscene plays, and like the graphics looked like significantly better in this one cutscene. It was a pre-rendered thing, and there hadn't really been those in the game yet, and we were like, "Oh, this is kind of weird. Like, why did they throw this random pre-rendered cutscene in, and then credits?" And we were both just like, "Oh wait, what? What just?"
So like
no.
Halo 2's ending, there was a big bombastic thing happening, and it was like, all right, now it's gonna go give them back their bomb and finish the fight and blah blah blah. Like it was absolutely a cliffhanger, but it was like
But they at least sold it as an ending.
Yeah, they like build some kind of bombast around it. Like this was literally just like they had a normal conversation that sounded like any of the other dozen plus conversations they had in the game about what to do next, and then it just like the credits popped up.
Wow. So maybe I'll wait for Gears of War 4-2 to come out first.
That'll be called Gears of War 5. You can expect it in 2018.
Okay, I'm probably not going to wait that long, but still.
So Paul, maybe you can share some of what you've been playing.
Well, I've been playing several very exciting things. I think the first thing that's been sucking up the most of my time has been a little game called Stardew Valley. I'm sure you guys have all heard of it if you listen to the Bombcast or any of the other gaming podcasts. They recently released their version 1.1 update, which added a decent amount of new content. And I decided to start over, be a new farmer on a new farm, and doing new farmer things. And I picked one of the different maps that were one of the new ones. And I now have a hilltop farm. And I ran around with my hilltop farm, and I did a lot of farming, a lot of mining, and talking to a lot of villagers. And I probably put about 20 hours into that to get through the first couple of seasons, just to see how they changed some of the events and some of the new dialogue options and things that they added there. But then I ended up going back over to my original farm, which had about 80 hours of time on it, and to see what they added at the end game content. And I can honestly say, as far as a farming simulator goes, that isn't just a farming simulator. The 1.1 update it added a lot of meaningful content to a $15 game, which is kind of crazy to think about. And if anyone ever has an infinite amount of time, then they should certainly sink their teeth right into it. It's a very good game.
Right. So you said they added new maps?
Yeah. So your original farm that you would start with is that there was only one option. You click new,
right,
and then you're on your farm.
Yeah.
Now you can have a hilltop farm, you can have a wilderness farm, you can have a river farm, and each one of these maps reduces the available farming area, but it's not so much that you're going to have some major game-breaking issue. They sort of get around that with adding some structures that are called sheds, and the sheds are bigger on the inside than they are on the outside, which is great. So a lot of stuff that you might have had on your farm for, like your cheese makers or your wine kegs, stuff that you would use to process crops into, more meaningful cash options, basically. You could now take a lot of those and put them in sheds. So, yes, the overall farming area is reduced, but no, you're not going to have any problems making game-breaking amounts of gold by the end of your second year. So it's a lot of fun.
So yeah, that's interesting that they added different maps. So like, does that change up the town and the people in the town and all that?
It doesn't change up the town or the people. The thing that it did change is one of the things that you can do in the game is you can get married. Mm-hmm. And what they added was a lot more dialogue with your spouse. There are 2 or 3 special events every season, festivals, and then there's dances and just random little events that happen, and you get a lot more spousal dialogue with those events than what you would get before. But they didn't really change too much in the way of, hey, this girl still likes purple rocks. Bring her purple rocks, and then she's going to marry you one day. So they didn't really meaningfully change those systems, but they did change a lot about, like if you choose a hilltop farm, you will have a fundamentally different setup and a fundamentally different farm from someone who chooses a river. So it just depends on your play style.
Cool.
I don't have a million hours. Otherwise, I would give this game a shot.
Yeah, Stardew Valley has been on my wait for a sale and wait for a stretch of time to play. It's I think it's 2016 game, right?
Yeah.
2016 game I've kind of had on my distant radar, but I actually didn't realize how involved it was. Like, I knew it was kind of a Harvest Moony sandbox game, but it sounds like it's actually a bigger experience.
Oh, it's
than
so
that.
Yeah.
much more, Ryan.
It's pretty
Yeah.
crazy. I actually tried it a little bit when I was on summer break, and for whatever reason, I just didn't get into it. I know a lot of people have gotten really hooked in on it, but yeah, there's a ton of stuff in that game.
How many
and-
how many ladies have you wooed, Paul?
Well, let's just put it this way. I'm a pretty
Perfect.
popular. Okay.
All right.
Now you can only get married to one person, unless in the version 1.1 you can. I think it's you donate 1 million gold to a statue that will wipe your spouse's memories as though you never met, and that's the in-game option for divorce. To keep
What?
adult conversation, you have to literally wipe their mind. Or you can go to another dark shrine and you can have any children that you might have had turned into doves. So if you want to go back to being a bachelor, you certainly can, but at great cost.
So you can't
Wow.
you can't just actually legitimately divorce people. You have to go through this weird black magic side route.
Absolutely, because if there's one thing that this game does is that it seems really simple and really sort of straightforward on the top end, like Ryan's talking about Harvest Moon. But the more you play it, the more you realize it's a really strange world that you're living in.
Great.
There's an adventurers guild, there are monsters, there is magic, there's a wizard, and you're like, you're not a wizard, and then he's actually a wizard, and you have no idea what's going on. And that's kind of what gives the game its charm, is that, everything that's, it does a lot of subverting of the tropes for these sorts of, farming games where you can get into a loop really easily in Harvest Moon, to where you're doing the same thing every day that you play the game. With Stardew Valley, the thing it does, which is a lot different and a lot more, is you can have whatever goals you want to have, and there's like 6 different goals at any given time. Like, you could try to woo a lady, which means that you spend a significant amount of your time gathering the things that you know that she loves in the world. Or you can spend your time getting to the bottom of the mines. That's like a dungeon. Or you can spend your time rearranging your farm. You can spend your time, foraging or chopping down trees. So it's more than Harvest Moon in the sense that there's more things to do every day. And that's where you really get trapped into this giant whirlpool, is you just want to do one more thing. Like, all you want to do is you want to get to 10 stars with Haley. And then you do, and then you realize that you're at 0 stars with Mayor Lewis. So you need to go talk to Mayor Lewis some more. And then by then it's 4 o'clock in the morning, and Mayor Lewis kind of likes you, but you're going to be late for work. And that's really been my experience with that game. And the latest content patch really did add a lot, both at the early game and the end game. And it surprises me that this guy's still putting out content patches that big for a game that is so cheap.
Yeah, I've seen constant stuff about updates he's done for that game. Like, he's apparently just been all year just pushing updates, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, so that's my Stardew Valley spiel for a couple of minutes. Nate, have you been doing anything fun other than Gears and Titanfall?
Pretty much those, and I played one game of Civilization 6 over the last week.
So when you say you played one game,
Yes.
like what does that mean?
So have you played a Civilization game?
Well, I have, and I've never. I mean, I don't think you can finish a game. I'm pretty sure I'm still at hour number 40 in Civ 3, and Shaka Zulu is still coming for me.
He needs to take down your takes with those spearmen, Paul. He's going to get you eventually.
Yeah, well, you know what? He got me once, and then I never played the game again. So.
But yes, you go through the ages as your civilization, and you or one of the other AI reach a victory condition, and then the game ends. Or you can keep playing, I guess. Technically, they give you that.
After you win, it'll say, "Do you want to go to the main menu, or do you want to play one more turn?"
Yeah, and you can just jump back in and keep messing with stuff if you want. But I played up until I got a victory condition. That was what I meant by one game.
Okay, so have they? I mean, in general, Civ games are pretty famous for being able to go for a long time. Is this one sort of on par with the previous releases for the time it takes to complete a game, or have they made it faster, slower?
It feels on par with Civ 5, I'd say.
Yeah, I think it's pretty similar.
Yeah. I've played 2 games. I have won 2 games of Civ 6. and I played on the quick speed, and it took longer than my normal Civ 5 game would on quick, but not a lot longer, and I think that was just due to me spending time poking around in menus and learning the new stuff, because I did move really slowly learning stuff.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think it actually might be a little quicker, because when you first start with a new Civ game, there is a lot to think about and read and mess with, and I feel like it didn't take me any longer than my normal Civ 5 games did, which I played like 200 hours of that game. So, yeah, I think it might be around the same, or maybe even a little quicker.
Yeah, my second game went a lot faster than my first game, because I already knew pretty much what I was doing. The biggest change they made is they have what are now called districts, and cities are limited by the number of districts they can have based on their population, and a lot of the normal city buildings you would have, like your libraries or your theaters or your coliseums, like a lot of those buildings now are relegated to districts. So if you want a science district to put your science building, like that takes one of your district slots. And on top of that, the districts are now placed on the actual map. So your districts will take one of the hexes on the map around your city. So that brings into two new considerations. One is you can't build every district in every city, so you can't just build every building. And then on top of that, you have to be very conscious of where you're placing the districts in terms of what hexes do you want to use for your districts, which means you're not going to get extra yield from them, from be it a farm or a mine or whatever else you could put on that hex. So they've made the way you build out your cities like a lot more nuanced and interesting thing, I think, in this game.
Yeah. And also wonders take up a hex on the world map, which for my Civ was ridiculous, because I had so many wonders. It was just like, oh, here's the Eiffel Tower, and here's Stonehenge, and here's the other thing, and they're all just right around my city, taking up all my space.
Yeah. So cities now, instead of like between the wonders and the districts, like instead of cities just all being jam-packed into this one hex, like cities just sprawl and just take out tons of area. It actually looks really cool.
Yeah, it does have a really nice look to it once you get it a full Civ going.
So how does that work with conquest? Like, does a enemy unit just walk up to your center city hex and then take that, and then all the districts go over to the bad guy, or do they just walk through, burn the entire countryside, and then they come to your city?
Well, they could do either. Actually, like you can basically, if you're at war with somebody and you're attacking their city, you can pillage their tiles around their city. So, like, if you wanted to stop their production, you could pillage their industrial sites, like in that hex that's apart from their city center, without even having to attack the city, which is a, hard thing to take.
Yeah.
But if you do take their city by, throwing units at it and hitting it with artillery or whatever, then you will gain control of all the districts that it has around it.
Okay. All right. So, well, this is it better, worse, different from Civ 5? Like, if someone has not played either of these games and you had to recommend one or the other, would you recommend them go with Civ 5 with all of its DLC and its balanced content, or does Civ 6 change the series in a meaningful way to where you would drive someone towards that direction?
That depends on what they're looking for. Like, if someone's like, oh, I've never played a Civ before, I just want to try it, I would absolutely say get Civ 5 with all the bells and whistles, because it's going to be way cheaper.
Yeah.
It's going to be a much easier entry point to get into because of the price, and especially if you get, like, I've seen the Civ 5, like, everything edition on sale for $10 or less before. So, like, that's just a much easier entry point. If you're someone who's like, oh, I've never played Civ, or for whatever reason I don't have Civ 5, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to be invested in Civ going forward, I think Civ 6 is already a really solid game, and they'll of course continue to support it down the road. So, like, if you're looking to get in and stay in and like keep up with it going forward, I think Civ 6 is a great entry point.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think like Civ 6 is very full featured, and I think I'm trying to remember back to whenever Civ 5 came out, but I'm pretty sure if you had to pick between base Civ 5 and base Civ 6, 6 is probably a superior game in a lot of ways.
Vanilla Civ 5 had some like, because I loved Civ 4. I think Vanilla Civ 4 was amazing. I actually don't think the expansions for Civ 4 were that great, but like vanilla
Yeah.
Civ 4 was already amazing.
Whereas Civ 5 maybe didn't start out strong, but its expansions were really good.
Yeah, vanilla Civ 5 was kind of iffy. Like when vanilla Civ 5 came out, I was actually like, I might still prefer Civ 4, but by the time the expansions all came out for Civ 5, like Civ 5 with everything in it is a fantastic game.
Yeah.
Well,
Vanilla Civ 6 is definitely better than vanilla Civ 5. I don't know if it's better than Civ 5 with everything in it, but it's got
I think that's a close contest, though, which I think
Yeah.
says a lot about Civ 6.
I think so too. Yeah, I think Civ 5 with everything might be a little better, but I think Civ 6 is starting off from a really, really strong base, and it's hard for me to imagine them not making that game amazing in the long run.
Yeah.
well, I mean, for my money, you know, vanilla Civ 5 had one very serious thing missing, which was Leonard Nimoy. But
So
that's
Civ 6 is entirely narrated by Sean Bean.
Yeah, how do you feel about Sean Bean?
you know, he's no Leonard Nimoy, but
It's true.
I'll agree
I
with
will
that.
say that I think I actually think that was, in all seriousness, a very good selection for a voice actor who is someone that basically everyone knows who he is now. Everyone's seen a lot of stuff with him in it, and if you're going for a recognizable voice that has gravitas, I mean, you're not going to get Morgan Freeman because no one's ever going to get Morgan Freeman. But Sean Bean, I think, is actually a pretty good selection. You know, given that you're trying to go for someone that you may not be able to place them immediately, but you're like, I've heard that guy somewhere.
Yeah.
You know,
He does a really good job too.
Yeah, he does do a good job. He's so chill. Like he just reads stuff to you, and you're like, "Oh, thanks, Sean Bean." Like, that was...
All right. Well, we're gonna have to go into a lightning round real quick. Does anyone else have any other games that they want to talk about quickly before we move into news? I actually want to take a second to start and say that I have started replaying the original Final Fantasy with my wife. She has not played through Final Fantasy 1 through 6, so we started playing Final Fantasy 1 last night, and Matoya's Cave music is still great.
Yes, it is.
So
Very nice.
yeah,
Warriors
so
of
we're
Light go.
Warriors of Light go, and so that's one thing that I've been playing.
What's your party comp?
Party comp is Warrior, Monk, White Mage, Black Mage, which was
Classic.
it was a
Classic.
compromise. It was a compromise party, and the compromise was I wanted to have a party that was Warrior, Black Mage, Red Mage, but my wife wanted the party that we ended up with, so we compromised and she got what she wanted, and that's kind of what that
Is that how compromising with the wife goes?
Sometimes, but you know, I'd already played through the game with that exact party comp before. It's incredible. It's hilarious. There's just swords all over the place and black magic, and I hope the boss dies before he casts a super move because I can't heal. So yeah, that's what I've been doing just for a quick minute. Ryan, do you have anything else that you want to talk about game wise?
Yeah, I just spun up Majora's Mask on the 3DS. I'm playing the remastered version, which
That's
is a little
very
too early to say how that is. Although the game styling is a little bizarre. The other thing I wanted to mention is that I am basically outside the final boss area in Tokyo Mirage Sessions Sharp FE, and I have paused to kind of wrap up some side quest content before I knock that one out. But
Okay. All right.
approaching
Flex?
80 hours.
Oh
Did you
Jesus!
say 80 hours?
80 hours.
All
Good
right.
grief.
I'll add that on my playlist right behind Trails of Cold Steel and Trails of Cold Steel 2, which will take me about 100 hours to get to. So
Did you ever figure out what they were looking at in that magazine?
Oh yeah. I mean, I never saw it,
What was
but I know
that
what they're.
magazine called?
My Complex.
Yeah, My Complex. I need a copy of My Complex.
I think everyone needs a copy of My Complex.
which
Made
is
waves in the modeling world.
right. We're just gonna let that one go. We're moving on. Flex, do you have anything else that you want to touch on before we get
I'll
to
give
news?
three quick shout outs to three different games. First, which Nate also played, sometime last month, played a lot of Forza Horizon 3, which is a super fun driving game. Like the main thing about that game to talk about is like they found a way to and Forza Horizon 1 and 2 probably did this as well, but they found a way to like make a good balance between like sim driving and arcade driving, and there's like a lot of options and assists and stuff you can tweak to kind of make it feel how you want to feel. And as someone who doesn't give a crap about real cars and real driving, I was still able to like find a way that made it a fun open world arcade driving game.
Good.
Yeah, and I had a lot of fun with that game. Like that game's really great. Next shout out is for AM2R, which stands for Another Metroid 2 Remake.
I think I saw this somewhere on the internet. People seem to like it whenever I was reading over some Reddit comments and some reviews. What do you think about it?
So I finished it yesterday, and it's pretty good. Like it's no Super Metroid, but yeah.
What is?
Exactly. But like of all the Metroid games, Metroid 2 was the one that needed a remake the most, and they did a good job at like this basically feels like the Zero Mission for Metroid 2. Like they basically took that game's basic story and world layout and that stuff, and they've just translated it into a more modern, more playable form.
And this was a fan remake?
Yeah, this is a free fan remake. You can just go Google it and find it.
I'm surprised that it hasn't been taken down with how Nintendo likes to defend its IP.
It has officially been taken down, so if your Googling leads you to the official AM2R page, you will find a post that says Nintendo told us we can't host this anymore, sorry. But it was up for a few days before Nintendo did that, which means the entire internet has it now, so you can find it somewhere.
Okay.
Was this a ROM hack release, or was it like a ground up?
This was a ground up rebuilding, and like that's kind of the main thing. Like it's not, it does like I played through the whole thing, and it doesn't feel quite as polished as like an official, Nintendo game would, but it's surprisingly close. Like as a fan project, like it is incredibly impressive. I don't know quite how they did that, though. I do think they've been working on it for like 10 years. Like I think this thing has been in the works forever.
That makes sense.
Yeah, but it's really good. If someone wanted to play Metroid 2 today, or if someone just wanted a new good 2D Metroid game because Nintendo's never going to make another one, this is definitely worth playing.
Yeah, it's interesting because that reminds me a little bit. I think I saw like a GameSpot or whatever article about like a ROM hack Mario 64, basically fan created game. It's like called Mario 64 Cloud Kingdom or something like that.
Right.
And the guy like spent a lot of time like just manipulating those assets into like a completely new game. But the legality and like behind that stuff makes it really tricky.
Yeah, it's always shady. I mean, and they released it for free, so it's not like they're making money off of Nintendo's stuff. But yeah, I'm sure there's all sorts of weird legal stuff in there. But yeah, I finished it and it's really good. Like it's legit good.
Okay.
Yeah, it's even it's more impressive that it's a fan remake, but like I would even say it's good without having to qualify it as a fan made project. Like it's just good.
Okay.
And
what's your last game that you think's worthy of note?
The last one is the ongoing saga of Shin Megami Tensei 4 Apocalypse.
Oh no!
I think I'm like.
Is that still going?
Yeah, I think I have like 30 hours on my file, so it's not like I've just put in a ton of time and it won't end. Like I've mostly been favoring these other games. Like I basically took 2 weeks of not playing that at all to play a bunch of Civ, and I played through AM2R and been playing Titanfall, and we've done all these other games we've been talking about. So that one kind of comes and fits and starts, but yeah, it's still going. I'm still liking it.
Okay, all right. Nate, anything else you wanted to bring up with the group here?
I think we covered the stuff I've been playing. I haven't had a ton of time lately, but I think we covered it.
Okay. Well, I'm going to call an audible, and I'm going to say we're going to take a quick break, and then when we come back, we are going to go through a couple of news stories that caught our fancy, and we'll be back right after this. Welcome back to Adults Talk About Cool Stuff. We are moving right into our news section of the podcast. We have our news section split up a little bit into things that we just sort of wanted to touch on that are going on in the gaming community right now versus some things that we have real opinions on. So the first thing that I kind of pulled this in here earlier this past week to talk about the NES Classic Edition, which if any of our listeners aren't familiar with the NES Classic Edition, it is a $60 box from Nintendo that looks just like a miniaturized version of your Nintendo Entertainment System. They've also got a Famicom version, I believe. And it comes preloaded with, someone help me out here, 30
games.
30.
$2 a pop.
30 classic Nintendo Entertainment System video games. And it also comes with 2 classic controllers, is that right?
It comes with 1, but you can buy another one.
Okay, and you're definitely going to want to buy the other one because back in those days, every game that was multiplayer was split screen. You played on the same screen, but so that's been making a little bit around the news, and very, very good reactions to it. I think, I mean, I don't know, like, what this thing, I just look at it and I go, I don't need this.
No.
You know,
I don't need it, but it looks cool.
But I really want it, and you know,
every game on this list that I would ever play, I already own in some capacity. So like,
So
it would be.
Quick question here,
Uh-huh.
I don't know. I haven't really read this article, so I don't know much about it. But how does this distinguish itself from like some of the other, you know, in addition to the emulation, which is obviously illegal? Like you have these like little kind of toy systems coming out that like have a bunch of NES games or Sega games loaded onto them.
Yeah, it's simultaneously a throwback nostalgia thing because like the form factor of it looks really nice and it's officially by Nintendo and like it has the official controllers and all that.
It's official. Okay.
Yeah, this is officially. Yeah, that's what makes it newsworthy. Is it's an official Nintendo thing. It looks like an NES. I mean, it's a lot smaller, but like it looks like an NES. Has all the logos on it. It's, you know, proper emulation, which like the interface of it looks really nice, and they have a lot of the same save state stuff that they use in like the Virtual Console games and all that. And of course, it's like HDMI cables and hooking up to modern TVs, and so like you don't have to worry about any weird, just bad display stuff. So like it's a lot. There's a lot of little niceties that just make it kind of a nice throwback. Nostalgia thing that also works in a modern context.
And I think that this is something that's definitely geared more towards people that are in their early to mid 30s. I'd say all the way up to someone who's, you know, getting in their early 40s. This is for someone who they had a Nintendo. Boy, they sure do love Nintendo. And then maybe there's someone like me who's somewhere along the way. You know, I kind of dropped off the Nintendo train. I've never had a Nintendo console where I could purchase virtual console games other than the 3DS, of course.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's totally aimed for people in that age range who played a lot of NES back in the day but maybe haven't kept up with it enough because, you know, like I said, like I've kept up with Nintendo stuff and I own all of these games in some capacity that I would ever want to play, so like there's really no reason for me to want this thing, but like there's totally got to be a group of people out there that are just like, oh, I remember playing the Mario Bros back when I was a young one. I would like to do that again. And like this is packaging a bunch of games for a good price in a neat little piece of hardware.
It's a great Christmas present, I think.
Yes, and I think we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about price. It's $60,
30 games.
and 30 games, one controller. You're gonna want to buy a second controller. And this is definitely one of those things that I feel like if you're someone that ever happens to have you know, people over to your house, it's kind of a really fun thing to pull out and, you know, sit down and play some, you know, original Mario Bros or Mario Bros 2.
I won't take a lot of time on this, but I think it's worth just quickly running through the list of games. I got it right here.
All right.
Balloon Fight, Castlevania 1, Donkey Kong, Double Dragon 2, Dr. Mario, Excite Bike, Galaga, Ghosts and Goblins, Gradius, Ice Climber, Kirby's Adventure, The Legend of Zelda, Mario Bros. That's not Super Mario Bros, that's Mario Bros. Mega Man 2, Metroid, Ninja Gaiden, Pac-Man, Super C, Super Mario Bros. Super Mario Bros. 2, Super Mario Bros. 3, Zelda 2, Bubble Bobble, Castlevania 2, Donkey Kong Jr., Final Fantasy 1, Kid Icarus, Punch-Out featuring Mr. Dream, no Mike Tyson, Star Tropics, and Tecmo Bowl.
Which, I mean, honestly, if you had to pick out a list of 30 games to put on a system like this is a pretty competitive list.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's certainly room for discussion, but that's 30 really good NES games.
Yeah, that's a solid greatest hits list.
So. I'm not looking to go retro myself, but I will say that $60 would get you less than half of those games on the virtual consoles. But let's not go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, that's another discussion for a podcast devoted to Nintendo being silly with their digital offerings. But this is one thing that they've come out with that I think it hits the nail on the head. I think it does what it needs to do, and I think it's at the price point to where, you know, I'm probably going to buy one of those.
Amazon's still sold out, damn it.
Yeah, and I don't need it. I mean, I'm not even going to hook it up to my main TV. I'm going to have it sitting on my desk to hook up to my computer monitor on the other HDMI input, which is silly because I've got emulators and I've got ROMs, but I don't have a mini NES sitting on my desk, and that's what I really need.
I'm waiting for the Super Nintendo Classic Edition.
There you go.
I'm not holding my breath on them coming out with any more of these. I could be totally wrong, but I bet
if this thing sells well, which it sounds like it is, there will totally be a SNES one in like 5 years.
Maybe in 5 years. I don't think that we'll see one like next year or in 6 months.
What if there's an NES Classic Edition 2 and it's just $60 for 30 different games?
Now they're getting silly. You only get one shot at these. I don't want to buy different versions of this stuff. So no, you've done good, Nintendo. Don't listen to Flex. Just keep on.
It comes with like 30 weird off-kilter games that like nobody paid attention to. It's like, hey man, just check out these cool games over here. Like we know you like Zelda and Mario, but you know
these are the deep cuts.
Yeah, this is the good stuff.
Maybe it would have River City Rampage.
Yeah.
Oh Lord. Well, speaking of Rampage, that is exactly what Beyond did in the StarCraft 2 World Championship Global Finals, which was at BlizzCon yesterday. For anyone that missed watching those games, I know that I missed most of them. Beyond is on a different level. And he pretty much creamed the competition. He walked away with first place, a $500,000 prize. And, of course, Beyond is from Korea, along with I think all the top 4 were Koreans. I think we had one foreigner in the round of 8, and that was about it.
How did Neve do?
Looks like round of 8.
Okay.
Yeah. You know, talk about the tournaments a little bit.
Spoiler alert for anybody who hasn't watched the games. But yeah, if we're going to talk about recent gaming events and news, like we definitely should give a shout out to BlizzCon. And they had a lot of tournaments, a lot of high level play for their various games, but StarCraft in particular, I think stands out as one of the like classic esports titles. And the tournament scene in StarCraft 2 has been really, pretty exciting to follow and watch. I think personally, I haven't been a long time follower of the StarCraft 2 scene, but I find that Legacy of the Void is more engaging and faster paced than a lot of the previous StarCrafts that I've played. And the competitive scene has been pretty exciting. Like you have some non-foreigners who are, they may not be winning the tournaments just yet, but they're able to kind of hang with the Koreans. So, you have like Neeb and Nurchio and Snoot kind of, there seems to be a lot of potential there that one day one of these guys will go head to head with a Korean.
I believe Neeb did win a tournament on Korean soil the other week or maybe a month or two ago now, and at the time he was the first and as far as I know still the only foreigner to win a Korean tournament in any StarCraft anything.
Yeah,
so
that's what
I definitely get the impression that the quote-unquote foreigner scene is the strongest it's ever been in StarCraft at the moment.
Yeah, that's what I heard, and he's one of the few who made it to the round of 8. The foreigners didn't have an amazing showing, past the first couple rounds, but It looks like Neve and Elazer made it a couple rounds in. I haven't had a chance to watch the games, but I think those will all be really exciting matches. It's not going to be watching a bunch of Koreans stomp a bunch of non-Koreans.
Yeah, I actually kept up with the StarCraft 2 tournament scene all the way through Wings of Liberty, all the way through HOTS, and I started dropping off right around the time that Legacy of the Void came back. So I was a little surprised to see that Snoot and Nurchio were still around, because they were around back when I was watching a year or two ago. But some things never change, and the Koreans are still just stomping everyone. Which like I say, I don't think that's never going to change. But I am still glad to see that there is an active StarCraft 2 tournament scene, and I do hope that continues to be something that's very popular, because I do enjoy sitting down and watching those games. I just haven't really made time for it in the last year or so.
Yeah.
So. We'd also be remiss if we didn't at least spend a minute and join in the rest of the internet with all of our opinions about the 3-minute Nintendo Switch teaser, which has spawned probably hundreds of millions of man-hours of people talking about it.
Going back to Nintendo?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few questions that I'm gonna have, and I think I'm probably the most Nintendo skeptic person we have on the podcast right now.
Just because I buy all their stuff doesn't mean I'm not skeptical.
Well, but I mean, they lost me with the Wii. They didn't get me back with the Wii U, and they're not getting me back with the Switch so far. I'm interested. I would like to know more. But I don't know that I really saw anything in that 3-minute video that made me super excited, but it did make me add a news alert to Google News to say anytime something comes up about the Switch, to let me know. So I'm interested to see where they go with it, but I'm certainly not getting my credit card ready for a pre-order.
Yeah, for me, the number one thing that matters is, and they haven't confirmed this, but it sure appears that this is going to be the case, that the Switch is basically going to replace both the Wii U and the 3DS as a single platform for all of Nintendo's games.
Yeah, that's potentially huge.
Yeah, because I like Nintendo games. Buying 2 machines to play different Nintendo games on different machines has just been a hassle for a long time, and they clearly can't support it right now. Look, since the 64 days, Nintendo consoles and handhelds have just been first-party machines. And why do you need 2 first-party machines for a single party? So bringing that under one umbrella would be great. The X factor there is the price, of course, but Nintendo's usually pretty price conscious. So I wouldn't expect it to be super expensive. But that's really the only thing for me that I just hope it's what it appears to be. So I hope that they just stick to that, and that this is the one machine to play all your Nintendo games on, and that for me is enough for now.
Yeah, I think chances of that are pretty good. I'm pretty excited about it. Without a really ridiculous price tag, I can say pretty confidently that I'll want one, even without knowing anything, just because that's the kind of person I am, I guess. I like to spend money on video game hardware, but yeah, I'm excited about it.
You bought an Oculus yet?
No, I have not.
Where's your Vita, Nate?
Yeah, I don't have a Vita. That is true. But
I have to call you out on that one.
No, you're right. I guess I like home console hardware. We'll say that. But yeah, I'm excited. I know they said that they're not going to reveal anything else really until January. So I guess we just kind of have to sit around and wait for a while. But I think if they come out with a strong game lineup and a decent price, I think people are going to be pretty excited for that thing.
Yeah, and one thing worth mentioning, Flex made the point that Nintendo handhelds and consoles have been first-party machines, and I think that's definitely true of the consoles, but less true of the handhelds.
That's true.
And this isn't really news. I mean, Nintendo played it up in their teaser that they've already lined up some third-party support. So, I think the third-party relationship on the handhelds has actually been pretty good. So that a consolidated system where they can still capture the third-party support, could be a really strong thing for Nintendo. But on the topic of having separate consoles and handhelds. I am I'll say jokingly, a victim of the Wii U, in that I bought one towards the end of its life on a sort of a rare price drop / bundle, and then they announced shortly after that they were basically almost discontinuing software support. And I'm not going to complain about that. I mean, I've spent almost 80 hours on Fire.
I was about to say, had you not
Tokyo
gotten
Mirage
the Wii U,
sessions, yeah.
you would
So
have
I mean,
not
I'm
getting to experience the pleasures of Tokyo Mirage Session.
yeah. So I'm certainly not going to complain that the Wii U is a totally failed system or anything. But it is a mild disappointment to kind of see a system that held its price for so long. I think almost 2 years with very little price bundling or dropping or anything, and then and it's a system that hasn't been as as fleshed out as some of the other first-party Nintendo systems.
Yeah, and we'll definitely learn more about the Switch very, very soon. March release date is, I think, I don't know if Nintendo said it or if it's leaked, but they said it.
They said it. We'll see if they make it.
Yeah, and there's obviously a lot of things that Nintendo has done right with their consoles. There's a lot of things that they've done wrong with their consoles. Guys, it's not that hard for online play. Take your friend codes and bury them in the ground where they're supposed to go. Look at any modern console. Look at Steam. Look at, I don't know, two guys yelling at each other with a can and a couple of strings. That's a better online system than some of the things that they've been doing. But they do have an opportunity with this system to really correct a lot of those things, because it is 2016. It will be 2017 when the system comes out. Hopefully, I can add friends via email addresses by then.
The Wii U did not have friend codes, so.
Well, what did the Wii U have? Did it have anything?
It just Nintendo Network ID.
Yeah, Nintendo Network ID, which is basically like your gamer tag or whatever.
Yeah, it's just a login name you make.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that definitely sounds better.
The Wii U, they finally got rid of the friend codes with the Wii U.
All right. Well,
to be fair, the Wii U's internet mostly works fine.
Yeah.
They don't.
They rolled the Nintendo Network ID stuff to the 3DS too, as well, right?
Yes.
Like that uses the same system now.
So in theory, now they do have a unifying online account. I would assume the Nintendo Network ID will be used on the Switch, but that's pure assumption on my part.
Yeah, and there are other complaints about Nintendo's online services, but that's probably not a discussion.
No, we don't need to get into that. But yeah, they've made steps to make it better, but there's still a lot of problems. That's the short. That's the short of it.
Right, and with the Switch, I think that they can make up a lot of ground, even if the hardware doesn't quite fit in the way that some people want it to. Because let's be honest, this thing's not going to be having hundreds of gigaflops of graphics power available. But there's a lot of ground that Nintendo can gain on the software side of things. That if they've been putting work into it, I think that they could really turn a lot of that stuff around.
Think about this. Pokemon you'll be able to play Pokemon on a TV now.
Yes.
I mean, honestly, that's something that it's gotten me interested. So I've owned a 3DS, a DS. I mean, I am the great handhelds master. So with this thing being a joint handheld plus plus home console, I'm certainly interested to see where this goes. But I think for a minute we need to stop and we need to talk about Alex Navarro. Flex, do you want to talk about Alex Navarro and what he's been doing?
Yeah.
Let's just make this a podcast about Alex Navarro.
Yeah. Alex Navarro is a cool guy. He works for GiantBomb.com. It's a website
Welcome
about
to the
video
second
games.
half of the podcast.
We're getting this started right. Yeah, so Extra Life is going on this weekend, and Giant Bomb, as they do every year, they build out like a ridiculous 72-hour or so nonstop schedule of streaming, and they'll like rotate between different people. There's usually one 24-hour stream in there, because the original Extra Life Challenge was play games for 24 hours straight. And that happened yesterday.
Charity?
Yeah, it's for charity. So they have donations going all during their streaming. And Drew and Alexis held down the 24-hour portion, which was on Saturday, which is the official Extra Life Day. But they build out 24 extra hours on each end. And Alex Navarro kicked off with 12 hours of him streaming. And the dude played Rock Band, drums, on expert, aka the highest difficulty, for 12 hours straight.
I don't want to know what he's feeling like after that. Like,
yeah, how are his arms and legs not jelly and just like falling off his body? And the crazy part is, like, he was doing well. Like, I tuned in when he was probably like 2/3 of the way through or something, and just watched for a little bit, and he was still like acing every single song he was playing.
Wow.
Like, he's banging on those drums on the highest difficulty for like 8 hours, and he's still like almost perfecting songs. It's ridiculous.
That's truly impressive.
Yeah, that
The next
dude's a
podcast
machine.
or the next stream you tune in and his arms are just missing.
he's just headbutting the drum set and still getting a perfect score.
Yeah, I don't even know. Props to that guy. But yeah, Giant Bombs continued to go all through the weekend. They're on their last. They'll end, I think, around 9 a.m. tomorrow. They got the last batch of folks streaming right now.
Okay. I have not tuned in to any of their Extra Life coverage. I have not been at a computer very much in the last couple of days, so I've actually missed the majority of that, but I do look forward to...
And to be clear, Extra Life is not a Giant Bomb specific thing. Like, people everywhere on the internet are streaming this weekend. I tend to watch a lot of the Giant Bomb stuff.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, unless anyone else wants to talk about Extra Life, there is the biggest news story of the last cycle that we kind of wanted to get into a little bit, because it raises some questions. Some questions as to the current state of games journalism, how much it matters, whether it should matter more. What I'm talking about is Bethesda's new review policy is in effect. They have decided, as a company, they're going to...
they ain't sending out early review copies.
They're not going to do that anymore.
They ain't doing it.
And you know, this brings into question a lot of things like, hey, maybe I don't need to look at a review before I buy a game. Maybe I just need to pre-order everything I see. Maybe, and obviously none of that stuff actually happens. But no, I mean, as someone who enjoys a quality video game, and as a person who is restricted more by time than money nowadays, I would say I still relied on reviews of video games to let me know whether or not to spend my time and money on a certain game. And the fact that Bethesda's not sending out early copies, to me, says that I'm probably never ordering any of their games on release. I'm just going to wait an extra week until the reviews siphon in. So it doesn't impact me too terribly much, but on a philosophical level, guys, this seems like kind of a jerk move.
Yeah, it's one of those things that it is more of a philosophical point than like a practical point of concern, because like any reasonable person should not be pre-ordering games anyway, like unless it's just something you know you want and there's like a discount, in which case you don't need the reviews anyway. So like in that case, like it's not going to affect you, because you just wait a few days, see what the reviews end up being whenever they come out, and it's fine. But it's definitely one of those things of like Bethesda totally could send those early reviews, but like that opens up the door for negative reviews to come out and deter pre-orders and that kind of stuff. So it ends up just getting and be one of those weird philosophical things of like, are they trying to like manage the reviews in some way to get the most pre-order money and all that stuff? It just ends up being one of those weird. It's like the ongoing shift of like publishers going directly to consumers and trying to circumvent reviewers and all that stuff as much as possible.
Right.
And that's the big story. And to be clear, they will still send their early copies out to very enthusiastic YouTube personalities.
Yes.
They're not cutting them out of the loop. They're just cutting the official press out of the loop. It's just, this has been a long, slow process, and Bethesda's been kind of the first one that's gotten out there and been like, yep, we're just gonna finally put that last, we're gonna make that last jump and just cut out the press entirely for our games as far as reviews go. But yeah, like for me personally, it doesn't make much of a difference, because unless it's something I know, like for example, I've pre-ordered Pokemon because look, it's going to be a Pokemon game. Like, you know what that game's going to be. Like, you already know if you want Pokemon or not. You don't need a review. But like for anything that's not in that kind of bucket, like this isn't going to affect me, because I would always wait a few days anyway.
Yeah, I think like it's hard to talk about that aspect of it, like how it will change buying habits without, I don't know, sounding kind of elitist, I guess, but like, yes, it won't change the buying habits of probably any of us here, and a lot of people who are very into video games and follow news and sort of play a lot of stuff and know what they like and know which companies they like. Probably won't make much of an impact to them, but then it's like you think about the people who don't really follow that stuff and they just kind of, what I'm trying to say without like calling them uninformed consumers as a negative, but people who maybe just buy like whatever the biggest game is, like, oh well, I've got this free time or I've got this extra money right now, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna get the game that's out right now. And I guess if they're not looking at reviews anyway, maybe it doesn't matter, but if they are like informed enough to know that reviews are a thing, and maybe when they go to pick up a game they'll look at the reviews, and then this kind of changes that landscape to, well, what reviews will be up on launch day, like whoever gets it out fastest, right? Like, so then it's just kind of a weird.
Yeah, to me it comes off as all being about like the pre-order and launch day push, because it's like
that's all it really is.
Yeah, like that's when Bethesda's putting the big marketing push behind it. Like they'll if like their big game this fall is Dishonored 2, so like they'll have their biggest marketing push on Dishonored 2 in like the week leading up to launch day, and they'll want people to pre-order and go buy on launch day. And if there are no reviews out there at all, there are no bad reviews, which means Bethesda gets to control the entire message. Like they can just market their game as being amazing, and no one can say otherwise because no one else has played it.
Right. So like, somebody who buys just a couple of the biggest games of the year, and like they know that reviews are a thing and that they can go look at them, hears about Dishonored the week before launch, and then goes online to look up stuff about it, like launch day or the day before or whatever, and they see nothing but very enthusiastic YouTubers having a great time.
Yeah.
Then I guess they're probably going to be more likely to buy it than people had reviewed that game, and maybe that game would get perfect scores. We don't know, but in some cases it might come out in a review that it's got problems or whatever, and that might affect a purchasing decision. It's a weird thing.
Yeah. It also could, just one final point, it could like indirectly lead to sloppier reviews, because then reviewers are gonna, like, on launch day, like websites have an incentive to get up reviews as quick as possible, because that's when people are looking for them around launch day. So it could give some incentive, like kind of in a roundabout way, incentivizes them to like go buy the game and play through it really quickly in the days following its launch, and like write up a review fast, instead of having the time to take their time and digest the game and really write a review in the week or two before it comes out. Like I imagine reviewers are going to be a lot more rushed for that kind of stuff, which could just lead to sloppier reviews.
Yep.
It's it's obviously not the end of the world. I am curious. So one of Bethesda's and I guess so. First question is, was like what, Fallout 4, Fallout 5, one of Bethesda's most recent games, big games?
Doom was their most recent game, and then before that was Fallout 4, I believe.
Fallout 4 kind of got some mixed reviews, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, it did.
I feel like this has to be at least partially in reaction to Fallout 4, because Doom they actually didn't send out review copies, and when they announced this as an official policy going forward, they actually cited Doom. They were like, "Hey, we didn't send out early review copies for Doom." And that turned out great.
Which doesn't make any sense at all. That's not an argument. You can't make an argument that, hey, our last game was good, so we don't have to send out review copies anymore. So
I guess
they kind of lucked into that one, I feel like.
They really did.
Yeah, I guess
they really did.
Think about it from that perspective, like the negative hype behind, a really or because Doom is a game I don't think that was super hyped. Maybe I missed the internet on that.
No, it actually got really terrible sort of like hate, because they released a multiplayer beta, and that beta had such bad reception that everyone said, "Oh, they're not sending out review copies." So, and the beta was bad, so this is bad. Everything's bad. This is going to be horrible. And then it came out, and it's like, "Oh God, we were all so wrong." But I don't think that was by Bethesda's design. That was just like like Flex said, they lucked into an amazing game, and now they're trying to use that as a springboard for not sending out review copies in a way that the argument isn't even cognizant and doesn't even make sense.
Yeah,
right, and so
it's pure conjecture, but I think Fallout 4 probably did get pre-release like negative word of mouth.
I'm pretty sure.
Anyways,
yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, Ryan. I just wanted to.
So I guess the question, for Bethesda would be, whether the negative review hype from, because it's Bethesda, I'm not that into Bethesda, but, I know who they are. Like, they make big AAA games, and, everybody knows what Fallout is, and, people love Fallout 2 and Fallout 3, and, so the expectations for Fallout 4 would be high, and, if it comes out getting kind of like lukewarm or even negative reviews, that's probably a pretty big hurt to their bottom line, which, it's good for the customer. And, it gives the press has a chance to do their job when they see review copies. For Doom, it's kind of curious because, I have heard a lot of positive things on that game after it came out, but before it came out, it was, the hype I heard was generally negative. And, maybe if they had sent out some real review copies, they could have even kind of bolstered their. Yeah. So it's hard to say which way the pendulum swings. Would be more beneficial for them as a company. They've made the decision that that it's not. I mean, on principle, if Bethesda was a company I cared more about, like if it was a company that I actually followed more closely, I would be kind of ticked. Because I do follow the press, I'm not a huge follower of the press, but I do look at reviews, and I know, including some of us on this panel, we enjoy following the press, and the press kind of adds its own entertainment value, and it's not that they're completely cut out. They can buy these games when they come to market, but at the same time, when a company's not friendly to the press, it kind of is not good for the press or the consumer, and that. I don't know how. I doubt the backlash, especially for a company with fan base like Bethesda, will be that significant. But it is, not particularly a consumer-friendly move in my view.
And I also think I think what makes this a bigger news story than even just Bethesda-centered, which is already pretty big at that. I would be willing to bet that Bethesda is merely the first to make this move, and I bet this is going to signal a wider industry trend. I would be willing to bet that within the next year or two, more companies will follow this kind of maneuver.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I mean, look, I think it's also important to say that, there are a lot of video games coming out right now. I don't think that anyone who treats video games as a hobby, meaning that you have, less than, say, 40 hours a week to play, you're never going to run out of games to play, right? I mean, in the end, this isn't going to be something that is going to measurably change the way that you're going to enjoy your spare time, but it is something, like Ryan said, it feels a little consumer hostile. I don't like it, but at the same time, if I really wanted to boycott Bethesda over this, if I felt that strongly about it, there's no problem. I mean, they're not making 80% of the game market right now, and as more and more of these companies continue to move in that direction, because I think that they will, what that's going to do to me is I'm probably never going to buy a game within 2 to 3 weeks of release ever again. And that's not a problem. I'm certainly willing to do that. I'm certainly willing to wait a couple of weeks because it's not like I have zero backlog. It's not like I'm just desperately waiting for the next game to come out because there are only 3 come out per year or something crazy like that. So that's why this is more philosophical than it is actually a problem for people that like to play video games.
Sure.
But at the same time, it's guys, you're being real jerks, and just stop. Stop being jerks. If you make a bad game, you make a bad game. Trying to hide it and be duplicitous about it is silly, but it's not going to stop me from playing video games, and it's not going to stop me from playing good video games, because, I mean, that stuff comes out in the wash eventually, And so, sure, you've just built in a 1 or 2 week time of delay for anything that I'm going to buy, and apparently that's all your stockholders care about.
Yeah.
All your stockholders care about is pre-order numbers and how many things sold in the first 72 hours. Well, you've officially pushed me out of your metric. Congratulations.
Yeah, and we're probably not the people who are like intended to be affected by this, because we'll like, for the most part, people like us, we pay attention to stuff, and we'll wait 2 to 3 weeks on games we're not sure about anyway.
Right.
Like, we do that already. Like, this is going to more affect the people. Like, the people who are going to be affected by this are the people who don't even know it's a news story.
Right.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
Well, and I am curious because, I feel like maybe we haven't seen this exact scenario, but it feels like maybe we've seen, some sort of similar scenarios over the past 10-ish years, because
this has been a long time coming.
Well, and the gaming review industry, has had to find its footing, like, in various ways, right? You had IGN and I guess GameSpot, or like kind of as the big reviews, and you had the whole Kane and Lynch thing and Giant Bomb forming, like, and of course there are a lot of other, there are a lot of ways like people are reviewing games now, right? You've got Let's Plays, you've got kind of these small companies spinning off and doing more like conversational entertainment based gaming reviews, but have we seen in the past where the gaming industry has kind of tried to, control, like with the Kane and Lynch example, potentially control or press on the video game press, and it kind of backfired on them? Because, it seems like the whole Kane and Lynch thing didn't particularly go well for the company that did that.
I mean, that's kind of what Nintendo did, both with the press and with Sony, that spawned the PlayStation. I mean, that was a company trying to exert control in a way that ultimately backfired in spectacular sense, which kind of gave us the gaming industry that we have today. But I don't think that anything like that's a different level of serious.
Yeah, that's kind of
that
a
was with the
different thing.
press, and that was with other competitors as well.
The thing that's most analogous, I mean, this to me is kind of its own new thing. The two things that feel kind of analogous are, one, remember when a few years ago Nintendo was like, hey, we're not going to E3 anymore.
Yeah.
Like, we're not doing E3 press conferences. Like, this feels kind of like that in a way. It's like just another step in companies cutting out the press as much as possible and like just going directly to consumers. The other thing that this makes me think of is like, at one point, the late 90s or early 2000s or whenever, like, we like made this long, slow, painful transition from magazines to websites, and this feels like the biggest step thus far in the next transition, which will be from websites to YouTube.
From multiple websites to
one website that's all video.
Yeah.
Like, it feels like YouTube is like 10 years from now, YouTube will be like the predominant like gaming news or personality or whatever you want to call it. Like, they will be the predominant like gaming hub, for better or worse.
Well, it depends on what you're looking for, right? If you're looking for like a more entertainment-based personal relationship with your
I'm
video
saying
game press.
in terms of like numbers of people going out and looking for video games coverage, YouTube will have more people going there than everything else combined, probably.
For my money, I tend to like Metacritic, Steam reviews, like pretty quick bites of information that give a good summary.
Ooh, Steam reviews.
Oh, yeah. And, I think that whenever you get right down to it, the most important point out of this news story is no one is making you buy video games, so maybe you should...
They're not?
No, they're not.
What have I been doing with my life?
You've been doing a lot of things that got you onto this podcast. Congratulations.
I think the people on this panel are making you buy a video game. So if you haven't bought a video game, you should probably run out and pre-order Dishonored 2 right now.
I need to go pre-order Dishonored 2.
Nope, you're not. You're not going to pre-order anything. But
can I get a season pass, deluxe edition? Can I get my skins? Where are my hats?
Jesus Christ! This will be the last time I'm on this panel. So, Ryan, what do you have on your horizon for the next couple of weeks that you're really looking forward to grinding your teeth into?
Well, sometime in the next day or two, I'm going to go save Japan and the world with the power of J-pop.
And then he's going to New Game Plus and do it again.
I don't know about that. Aside from that, the games I've been touching on, probably, yeah, Sun and Moon.
Okay.
I also pre-ordered Pokemon Sun because, like Flex said, it's...
Because you can't do anything else.
Yeah, here we are
It's in
criticizing
your
people
blood.
who pre-order games, but, there are definitely games that you either kind of know what they're going to be, or you can be cautiously optimistic about the idea or the concept.
Like,
Right.
I pre-order rarely, but whatever I do, like, I pre-ordered Civ 6 and Pokemon Moon because, like, you know what those games are. Like, there are some very safe pre-orders out there.
Well, Flex, what else do you have that you're going to be finishing up or starting in the next couple of weeks? I assume Pokemon's going to be on that list.
Yeah, I did pre-order it. I don't know if I'll start it right away. I'll have to see where I'm at with other games. I want to I will not start that until I'm putting a stake in the ground on this one. I will not start another RPG until I finish Shin Megami Tensei 4 Apocalypse.
All right.
I will play other games on the side as I've been doing, but I will not start another giant JRPG until that one's done. Point being, I'll continue playing that, which I'm really enjoying it. The other non-RPG that I will start probably, if not today, within the next few days, is I have purchased and downloaded Owlboy on Steam.
Nice.
Okay.
That game came out last week and looks real good.
It looks
All right.
cool, yeah.
Yeah, so I will be playing. That'll be for the next week or two. Will probably be Shin Megami Tensei and Owlboy, and then of course more Titanfall 2 multiplayer.
Nate, what about you?
I definitely want to finish up the Titanfall 2 campaign. I would like to play more Civ if I can find time, and Pokemon is definitely on my horizon. I have it on authority from this discussion that I have to go out and buy more video games, though, so I'm going to have to figure out what I'm going to do with that.
Oh, quick
right.
question, Nate. Have you had a chance to play Super Hot? I heard you bought it on a Steam
Yeah,
sale.
I did buy it. I haven't started it yet. But I will
I saw
probably
that
dive
one
into
on the-
that at some point soonish, hopefully.
Well, as far as I go, talk about giant JRPGs, Trails of Cold Steel. I'm gonna hope to have that finished up in the next couple of weeks. Taking a trip to see my in-laws next weekend, so I'll be certainly hiding in as many back rooms as possible to play that and not talk to any of those people. I'm just kidding. I love my in-laws. And then other than that, probably gonna just kind of try to keep this Final Fantasy train rolling with my wife, because spoiler alert, sometime in the next 3 to 4 months we're going to have a Final Fantasy ranking podcast, which will take many more hours than what this one should, and should be fairly exciting. So
We'll do it during Extra Life next year and just do a 24-hour Final Fantasy ratings stream.
No, we will not be doing that.
I can't get behind that idea.
No.
I'm sure we could find little details to contend until the sun comes up.
Oh, Lord.
If you want to hear people descend into madness.
Black mage, white mage, red mage.
So we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. Like I said, this is episode 1, ATACS, Adults Talk About Cool Stuff. We hope to make this either weekly or bi-weekly. We'll see where this goes, and we're going to have rotating panel members. More than likely have rotating hosts, because that's the way life works with all of us. We get busy, and sometimes we can make it, and sometimes we can't. So this has been Paul in Atlanta, on board with Ryan from New York City, Flex from Raleigh, and Nate from the great metropolis of Wendell, North Carolina.
That's right.
And that's right. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this, and we'll try and do better for you next time. Thanks.
Thanks, Paul.